While lying around and eating snacks, Takemichi hears on the news that conflict in Tokyo Manji Gang led to civilian casualties, including Naoto and Hinata. That surprises Takemichi, as that was his only girlfriend in middle school. Standing on the train station, Takemichi complains how bad his life turned as the train comes. Someone pushes him, and before he gets hit he remembers Hinata. Suddenly he awakens in the train and sees his old school friends, Makoto, Yamagishi, Akun, and Takiya, call him to leave the train. Checking his phone he sees it's July 4, 2005, which is exactly 12 years ago. On their way to fight the second years of Shibuya's third middle school, Takemichi starts to recall they indeed went and fought with the second years, but gets scared as he hasn't fought in 10 years. They reach Shibuya, but everyone they talk with is either a first or third year, and start to wonder if the second years are just avoiding them. Masataka comments he heard they are looking for their second years, but all the second years are on a school trip. Takemichi and the rest then get beaten up. They also get to know that they will now be soldiers in the Tokyo Manji Gang. Takemichi recalls how their hellish days started, and the reason he left the town after graduation. Takemichi recalls Hinata and goes to her place, as he had even forgotten how she looks like. Seeing him beaten, Hinata realizes that he had fought again and tells him to stop fighting for stupid things. While leaving, Takemichi hears some guys harassing a younger kid and gets angry. He goes and punches one, then breaks a bottle, telling them he is in a shitty mood, and if they don't leave he will kill them. The kid thanks him, and Takemichi gives him advice to be more confident and not back down. The boy, he says his name is Nato, making Takemichi realize that he is Hinata's younger brother. Knowing that he will also die in 12 years, Takemichi tells him to take care of his sister and that he loves her. Takemichi reveals that on the same day in 2017, he fell into the train tracks and ended up in 12 years in the past. He also reveals that on July 1, 2017 Hinata and he will die, so he must remember that date and protect his sister. Takemichi then shakes Nato's hand. Suddenly he wakes up in the infirmary at the station and sees it's July 4, 2017. He guesses this was just a dream, but then wonders how he survived the train incident without a scratch. The one who saved his life shows up and wishes to speak with Takemichi. The man reveals he is Nato and Takemichi had changed his fate with the information he told him in the past. Nato was able to save him and reveals he studied really hard and became a police officer. However, he still wasn't able to protect Hinata, who still died. Nato then asked Takemichi to help him save his sister. Takemichi agrees to help him to save Hinata. Nato explains that his power is time travel, and he is able to jump on the exact same day. But 12 years ago, Takemichi spends 2 days without sleep in Nato's room. Nato gives him all the information he had obtained about Tokyo Manji Gang and wants him to remember it. As Takemichi can't go back on any date he wants, Nato tells him that when he gets back in time, he needs to meet the Tokyo Manji Gang top 2 members, Manjiro, Akamaiki and Kasaki. Naoto states that if those two never met, the current Tokyo Manji Gang would never exist, and his sister wouldn't have to die. They shake hands and Takemichi time travels 12 years ago. Takemichi opened his eyes and sees he is in a fight. His opponent punches and knocks him out. Later Takemichi wakes up and Masataka's gang is annoyed that he went down only after 1 punch. Masataka tells his men to teach Takemichi a lesson. They start to beating him up and Takemichi recalls a fight club and that he was Masataka's slave, which was eventually the reason he ran away, leaving his friends and Hinata behind. Akin reveals that Takuya will be fighting today. Akin wants to take Takuya's place, but Masataka wouldn't listen. The fight is about to start, but Takemichi interrupts the fight, knowing that he can't save Hinata by staying a slave. Takemichi challenges Masataka, who agrees to fight him. The first hit from Masataka makes Takemichi realize their vast differences in power, but he refuses to give up. Seeing Takemichi being beaten, Akin approaches the ring and takes out a knife, intending to stab Masataka. Takemichi tells Masataka that if he wants to win, he'll have to kill him, as he isn't giving up. The vice commander of Tokyo Manjin, Manjiro, appears and tells Masataka to calm down, as he is scaring the crowd behind him. Manjiro tells him that he is out with Toriaki. While Takemichi's friends wonder who he is, everyone else bows down and greets Manjiro, the commander of Tokyo Manji Gang. Manjiro approaches Takemichi and asks for his name. He then informs Takemichi that starting today, he is his friend. Manjiro approaches Masataka and asks him if he is running the fights, as he confirms. Manjiro kicks him in the face and then proceeds to beat him up. Later Yamagishi and Makoto are excited that Takemichi manages to make friends with Manjiro. However, Takemichi panics as he went from being a slave of Masataka to being a slave to a monster. The next morning Takemichi heads towards school and meets Hinata, who asks him to go on a date before her cram school. Later today during class Takemichi wonders what to do next. He managed to meet Manjiro, but wonders on how to prevent Manjiro and Kasaki from meeting. He hears some noise from the corridors and then sees Manjiro entering his classroom. Manjiro wants Takemichi to hang out with them, but Takemichi states he's busy as they try to convince him. Hinata understands that they are bullying Takemichi and goes and slaps Manjiro. She takes Takemichi's hand and tries to leave, but Draken stops them. Takemichi then places his hand on Draken and tells him to release Hinata, as there are things he won't give up ever again. Manjiro tells Takemichi they could have been friends and asked him how he wants to die. Takemichi asks them to promise they won't lay a hand on Hinata. Manjiro states he doesn't care and reaches to punch Takemichi, but stops his hand and states he's joking and he would never hit a girl. While riding bikes, Takemichi recalls that Nadao had told him all the bad things the Tokyo Manji Gang does in the future, and he wonders if Manjiro is really the head of such an evil gang. Takemichi asks Manjiro why he liked him, and Manjiro explains that he had a 10 years older brother who was reckless and picked fights with much stronger people. And Takemichi reminded him of his brother. So Manjiro intends to make a new era for delinquents and wants Takemichi to come with him. While walking home he passes through a group of guys and feels he had seen one of them before. Hinata invites Takemichi to her place so that she can help him study. Takemichi is excited to be in Hinata's room as it's the first girl's room. Suddenly fireworks start and Hinata takes Takemichi to the roof to enjoy the view. He reaches to hold her hand, but then realizes he is holding Nadao's hand and returns to the present. In the present Takemichi wakes up and starts crying. Nadao realizes his theory about handshaking is correct and guesses something must have changed since Takemichi returned. However, learning that Takemichi shaked his hand by mistake he gets angry. Nadao reveals that they learn something new about his time travel. Takemichi returns exactly 12 years in the past, and if he spends a week there. When he returns to the present a week and past as well as during that time his body isn't suspended. Takemichi reveals that he met Manjiro and suggests they go and see him as he wants to learn from him why Tokyo Manji Gang Akatomen has changed while they go over documents to look for a way to find Manjiro. Nadao sees someone he doesn't recognize. Aken had become a member of Tomen's upper echelon. Nadao finds it strange as in previous timeline. Aken got arrested for stabbing Masataka, and after his release, he was just a no-name punk. Takemichi finds Aken's old phone number and calls him. Aken ends up answering. Takemichi arranges a meeting with him at the bar. As they meet, Takemichi can't recognize him at first, as he is missing his pompadour. Aken tells him he has been waiting all this time for him to show up. Aken wishes to speak with Takemichi in private, and they head to the rooftop. Takemichi comments Aken must have a good life with all the money. But Akun comments there are things you can't buy. He knows that Nadao was a cop and that he is Hinata's little brother. Aken then reveals he was the one that pushed him into the train tracks. Takemichi refuses to believe that he would try to kill him as he is his friend. Aken reveals that he is Kasaki's soldier and everyone in Tomen obeys him. As they haven't seen Manjiro in years, Aken reveals that Manjiro changed after Draken died and asked Takemichi to go back in the past and save him and save everyone. After that Aken jumps from the rooftop causing Takemichi to start crying. On the other end of the rooftop Kasaki is seen listening to their conversation. Takemichi tells Nadao to look into Draken's death, as it was Kasaki who turned Tomen into evil. Takemichi then decides to save everyone. They reads the news reports on Draken's death. On August 3, 2005, he and other 50 people were in a biker gang fight, and he ended up being stabbed and died. The reason for the fight was inner strife between Manjiro and Draken's faction. Takemichi find that hard to believe as Draken understands Manjiro more than anyone else. Hearing that Naoto guesses there is likely more to it, he states that Takemichi's current mission is to save Draken, which will result in Manjiro not changing. As they agree on the mission, Takemichi and Nadao shake hands. Takemichi opens his eyes to find himself in a karaoke room with a half-naked girl on him. Phone rings and Emma picks it up. Takemichi runs shocked. Later Draken calls Takemichi and tells him to come to Musashi's shrine as they are gathering there. Hinata decides to go with Takemichi as they arrive at the shrine. They see multiple people with bikes, and they start yelling at Takemichi to leave as this is Tomen gathering. Takashi, the 2nd Division captain, takes them to Manjiro, who is glad that Takemichi came, and Draken comments he shouldn't have taken Hinata with him. But Takemichi explains he didn't know it was this kind of gathering, and then calls Emma and tells her to protect Hinata. Her as she is Takemichi's girlfriend. Emma tells Hinata that she isn't interested in Takemichi, but she tried to seduce Takemichi, hoping Draken will get at least a bit angry. But he only cares about Manjiro, bikes and fighting. The meeting of Toman starts, and Manjiro wants to know the gang opinion on the conflict with Mobius. Pa Chin and Pa Yen push Takemichi. Angry for what happened with Masataka, Takashi explains that Mobius leader Asanai messed with Pa for something stupid. Asani beat up his friends and raped his girlfriend in front of him. They took his money, also beat up his parents and siblings too. Takashi explains that Toman runs Shibuya, while Mobius runs Shinjuku. Manjiro asks Pa Chin if he wants to do. Pa is aware that if they fight, Toman won't go unscathed, but he is really pissed and wishes to fight and kill them. Manjiro then yells they are going to crush Mobius on August 3rd. In the Musashi festival, Takemichi thinks about the situation. He knows that on August 3rd, Draken dies during internal conflict in Toman, but now on 3rd, they are going to fight Mobius. Unable to think of anything, Takemichi decides to be Draken's bodyguard. The next day Draken declines, but Takemichi, wanting to know more about Mobius, and returns to the present. He tells Nadao that he doesn't believe Manjiro and Draken would end in a conflict, and ask him to track Asanai. In order to ask him what happened between Toman and Mobius, Asanai initially refuses to talk about Toman and fight. However, he denies Nadao's accusations that he ordered Draken's death. Asanai reveals that they didn't kill Draken, but the incident was a trigger that led to Toman's internal conflicts, and all was planned by someone. Takemichi believes Asani, as he looked quite shaken, and realizes that someone used Asanai and wished to split Toman. Takemichi then returns to the past in order to warn Manjiro. Takemichi wakes up on a bike with Akin and gets happy that Akin is still alive. He asks him if he have any dreams, and Akin reveals he dreams of becoming a hairstylist. Takemichi then leaves and goes to Manjiro. Takemichi asks Manjiro to call off the fight with Mobius, stating that someone is plotting the fight, but he can't tell them how he knows. Pa Chin then pushes Takemichi aside, warning him that he will kill him if he says anything else. Manjiro states that they are going to fight Mobius as he made up his mind already. As Takemichi states he won't back down, Draken stops Pa Chin, stating that maybe they need to look more into Mobius. Manjiro then wonders if Draken is against Toman. Asanai then shows up and states they should respect as he's 2 years older, which makes Pa Chin angry and he rushes at him. But Asanai knocks him with a punch and jokes that they need to rename to Middle School Baby Alliance. Takemichi can't believe this is the same person he met in the present. Asanai then hits Takemichi as he felt he was looking down on him. Pa Chin then interferes and wishes to fight Asanai, and Manjiro tell the rest to just watch. Asanai takes on Pa Chin and easily beats him. Pa Chin apologizes to Manjiro for being worthless, but Manjiro states he didn't lose. While Mobius members mock Manjiro and the rest, he approaches Asanai and knocks him out with a single kick. Asanai manages to get up and takes a broken bottle, but as he rushes towards Manjiro, Draken manages to easily stop him. Draken then announces that Mobius will be under Tokyo Manji Gang. As they hear the police approaching, everyone runs. Takemichi recalls Asanai's words that this was the trigger, but is surprised that everything ended so peaceful and wonders if he is missing something. In that moment, Pa Chin stabs Asanai in the back, which shocks everyone. Pa Chin apologizes to Manjiro and tells him to run, as he intends to turn himself in. While running, Takemichi loses consciousness. Takemichi wakes up in the hospital with Emma next to him. He wonders about Manjiro and Draken. While crying, Emma explains that they ended up fighting due to Pa Chin, and Toman is now divided into the Manjiro faction and the Draken faction. Takemichi spends 3 days at home. His friends visit him and tell him that Toman is in bad situation and is likely to split, but then start laughing and explain that Draken and Manjiro fight often. In that moment, Draken shows up bringing watermelon and shocks everyone as they eat it. Draken tells them that Pa Chin will be held for a year and Asanai is alive. As Draken leaves Takemichi's home, he sees Manjiro in front, and both wonder what the other one is doing there. Both state they are there to see Takemichi, who is their friend. As they continue to argue, Takemichi tries to stop them, which annoys Draken. Manjiro then takes Takemichi's bike and throws it at Draken, who dodges, and the bike breaks on the wall. Takemichi gets angry for Manjiro and Draken breaking his stuff and yells at them to stop. As Takemichi tries to punch Manjiro, he dodges and Takemichi falls into the trash. Draken apologizes and asks Takemichi to calm down. Takemichi explains that they don't care about those around them and their fight will split Toman. Takemichi stinks. A bit later, after Takemichi washes his hair, he joins Manjiro and Draken, who have made up and apologized for their behavior. Manjiro states he forgot for what they even fought about, but Takemichi guesses it's due to Pa Chin. as even though he was guilty, Manjiro still wanted to help him, while Draken wanted to honor Pachin's resolve. With Manjiro and Draken no longer fighting, Takemichi realizes he changed history and Draken won't die. On August 3rd, Takemichi, Hinata, Emma and Draken go to the festival together. As it starts to rain, Takemichi and Hinata run to hide under a tree. Hinata loses balance, but Takemichi manages to catch her. While staying together, Takemichi realizes it's a good moment for a kiss and attempts to kiss her. But his phone rings. Yamagishi tells him to warn Draken to watch his back, as he heard that someone that support Manjiro wants to kill Draken, and even though Draken and Manjiro are good now, Takemichi hangs up the phone and apologizes to Hinata and asks her to wait for him. He goes around looking for Draken, but finds some of Toman members with a Mobius guy who gives Masataka a blade, and Masataka states that he will kill Draken. One of Masataka's guys finds Takemichi and brings him to them. After beating him up, Masataka ties Takemichi with a duct tape and leaves him. Some moments later, Hinata finds tied up Takemichi and removes the duct tape from his mouth. Takemichi starts crying, stating that he tried his best, but in the end he couldn't save anyone. If he was like Manjiro or Draken, he could have beaten them, but as he is worthless, he couldn't do anything. Hinata then kisses him, saying it was her first kiss, and she gave it to him, as he is special to her. Hinata frees Takemichi, and he decides to go and stop Masataka. Takemichi encounters Takashi and informs him that Draken will be attacked. However, Takashi already knows, but is surprised it's Masataka and not Payan. Takashi states that everyone came to an agreement that they couldn't do anything about Pachin, except Payan. Elsewhere, Payan finds Draken and Emma. While looking for Draken, Takashi explains that Payan believes Toman and abandoned Pachin and have teamed up with some Mobius members to take out Draken. Seeing Payan, Draken knows that he isn't happy with what happened and prepares to fight him, but suddenly a Mobius member attacks him with a bat from behind. Takemichi recalls now the words about Draken's incident happening on a parking lot and heads towards the parking lot. They find Draken fighting numerous Mobius members. As he is getting tired, he sits on the ground and tells Takashi that he leaves things to him. A moment later, they hear a bike and recognize it. Manjiro gets off his bike and realized he was called somewhere else so that Payan can be with Draken and break Toman, but wonders who tricked him into doing that. Hanma reveals himself and introduces as the temporary leader of Mobius. Manjiro attempts to kick him in the head, but Hanma manages to block it. Hanma reveals that they intended to destroy Toman by having them fight internally, but this is also fine, as he can kill Manjiro by his own two hands. Shuji then calls 100 of Mobius members and warns them to not run, or he will chase them and beat out all of their teeth. Takemichi realizes that he changed the events and a new conflict rises as Mobius prepares to fight the 4 Toman members. The rest of Toman arrives on bikes, ready for a fight. As the fight starts, Takemichi goes around looking for Draken, wishing to protect him. While beating down Mobius members, Manjiro approaches Payan and asks him why he attacked Draken, even though they have settled things down. Payan doesn't accept that Toman gave up on Pachin and starts punching Manjiro. Payan knows that Manjiro can beat him in a single hit, but wonders why he isn't fighting. Manjiro pulls Payan's head towards his and tells him to look at him, and if he ever smiled about Payan getting caught. Manjiro asks Payan to keep hitting him until he is satisfied, but he doesn't want to fight with his own family and wishes Payan to return to them. Takemichi eventually spots Masataka and decides to stop him, but then sees he hold a bloody blade while repeating he did it. Takemichi finds Draken stab and informs Manjiro, who attempts to get to Draken, but Hanma gets in his way and engages Manjiro in a fight. Seeing Draken is still alive, Takemichi puts him on his back and tries to carry him to a hospital. Hinata and Emma see him and inform him that they have called for an ambulance. While waiting for the ambulance, Takemichi sees Masataka and his gang approaching. As he gets scared, Draken awakens and thanks him for helping him and tells him to take Hinata and Emma to run. He goes to Masataka and states that he isn't running away and is getting his revenge. Takemichi attempts to punch Masataka. However, he stabs him in the arm, stating that this isn't a one-on-one, but an execution. Takemichi attempts to hit Masataka, but he knocks him back. Takemichi then tackles Masataka and bites him as Masataka hits him, trying to make him let go. Takemichi manages to get on his back and starts choking him. As he doesn't let go, Masataka eventually loses consciousness and Takemichi wins. Masataka's gang attack, but moments before they reach Takemichi and Ken, Akin comes out and punches one of them, making him drop his knife. Makoto, Takuya and Yamagishi also come out and stand in front of Draken and Takemichi. They start fighting Masataka's group, but are easily getting beaten up. Hearing the sirens, Masataka's gang decide to run, leaving Masataka behind. Hinata and Emma lead the medics to Takemichi and Draken. Meanwhile, Toman manages to beat Mobius, with only Manjiro and Hanma still fighting. Hanma is impressed by Manjiro's stamina. However, a man comes to pick Hanma as the cops are coming. While everyone is running, Hanma tells Manjiro that he is about to witness the creation of the most sinister biker gang alliance in Kanto, Valhalla, and reintroduces himself as the first vice commander of Valhalla. Draken thanks Takemichi for saving his life and tells him to take care of Manjiro. In that moment he gets cardiac arrest, and the doctors start to give him CPR. They reach the hospital and immediately take him to the operation room. One by one, Takemichi's friends and Toman members arrive. Manjiro tells them that Draken is a man of word, and he promised him that they will rule the world together, thus he won't die, and they need to believe in him. As the operation ends, the doctors come out and inform the group that the operation was success and Draken is alive. They head out to tell the rest about Draken. However, Pei-yan states he cannot face them. Takashi tells him that they know he did it for Pa-chin's sake. But the one that was thinking the most about Pa-chin was Draken. Learning that Pei-yan agrees to apologize to everyone. Going outside the hospital, Takemichi realizes it's past midnight. And it's August 4th, which means Draken didn't die on August 3rd and his mission is success. The rumors of the fight have brought more rumors, and Takemichi has become a legend for stopping the fight. As he enjoys his newfound fame, he don't want to go back to the present. He goes to visit Draken, but ends up being scolded for how lame he looks. And Draken hands Takemichi Toman's uniform and states that it's from Manjiro, and that it belonged to him from when he first formed Toman. Takemichi is free to decide if he wants to wear it, but Manjiro wanted Takemichi to have it, as he saved Toman. Draken then tells Takemichi to go see Manjiro on the roof, where he probably sleeps. Going on the roof, Manjiro wonders why Hanma wanted to cause inner conflict within Toman, and why he used Masataka to kill Draken. He finds even more mysterious that Takemichi realized all that before anyone else, and tried to stop it. Manjiro wonders who Takemichi is. As Takemichi tries to come up with an answer, Manjiro mocks him for his lame outfit and thanks him for saving Draken. Takemichi decides it's time to return to the present. He goes to Hinata's place to see Natao, since he got Hinata in a mess. As Natao shows up, Takemichi shakes his hand and returns to the present. He believes that since Draken is alive, Kasaki won't become number 2, Manjiro won't change due to Draken's death, Akin won't die, and Hinata won't get killed. As he returns in the present, he checks his phone, but can't find Natao in his contacts. He sees a notification reminder for scheduled meeting in the salon and wonders what is he going to do at the salon. He finds Akin working there and wonders if he became a hairstylist. Akin states he just started and is only an assistant. Takemichi gets happy that he managed to change the present. He then receives a call from unknown number and realizes it's Natao, who had realized that Takemichi had changed the present and wants to go see Hinata. As he rides in Natao's car, Natao tells him that the incident that killed Hinata did not occur in the current future. They arrive at Hinata's apartment, with Takemichi excited, saying that it is a dream come true. Suddenly nervous, he tells Natao that he cannot see Hinata and that Natao should visit her alone, as she does not know that he saved her, and they are now strangers to each other. As he prepares to return to his life, he bumps into a grown-up Hinata, who remarks that he shows up at the weirdest times. Eventually back in Hinata's apartment, Natao decides to leave, but Takemichi desperately begs him to stay, as he is extremely nervous, and Hinata laughs at Takemichi's reaction, remarking that he hasn't changed. While Takemichi notices the 4-leaf clover necklace, Natao decides to bring the group elsewhere as an attempt to lighten the atmosphere, and the car is equally as awkward as in the apartment. Suddenly, Natao is being called by the police. He decides to leave his car to Hinata and will come back for it tomorrow. Hinata decides to stop the car at a car park and she asks Takemichi to walk with her. Hinata tells Takemichi that the park evokes memories. Specifically, a memory of her was someone she liked on Christmas Eve. Takemichi replies that he cannot believe that anyone would dump her, and Hinata, crying, wonders why she was dumped. Takemichi comes to the realization that Hinata is talking about him. Overwhelmed with this information, he rushes to the bathroom, confused as his memories do not align with this information. As he walks out of the bathroom, he encounters a man who remarks in surprise that Takemichi is not in the car. Though confused at first upon seeing the man's hand tattoos, Takemichi realizes that the man is Nama and gets an uneasy feeling. From this, he rushes to Natao's car, where Hinata is sitting in just in time to see a car driving into it. Feeling horrified, Takemichi rushes towards the crash. The driver of the car turns out to be a gravely injured Akin, who asks Takemichi why he is not in the car. Akin says the same things as he did during his previous encounter with Takemichi in the future, wondering when things went wrong, how he came to fear Kasaki, and implores Takemichi to save everyone. While Takemichi screams in despair as the events turned out the same. Akin's car explodes and Takemichi rushes to Hinata, who is still alive, as Takemichi attempts to get Hinata out from the car, and in order to escape the impending fire from the explosion, she thanks him. Hinata is gravely injured and has lost all feeling in her legs. Crying, Takemichi crawls into the car hugging Hinata and confessing that he has and will always love her. Feeling the approaching fire, Hinata pushes away smiling at him before the car explodes and implodes into flames. As the fire wars in front of him, Takemichi swore to save Hinata and find a future where she is alive, no matter how many attempts it takes.